And how's everyone today? Welcome to Plate Exchange, a subsidiary of On the Ring Apron. I'm Steve. I've got Kia and Alyssa over to my side here. They can say hello if they like. They've both been working, so we're all tired. But we're gonna cut through this real quick because we know that it's a weekday and everybody has things to do. Thursday night football and all. It's date night for two of us, so we're looking forward to a fun evening here in a little bit. But this has been stalled out, so for those of you who have communicated with me, I do apologize for this episode being a little bit delayed. We were shooting to do it during this past weekend, and anyone who watched NXT 2 nights ago saw how that quickly backfired on me. But more on that here shortly. But for anyone who's joining us for the very first time, this is Plate Exchange. This is where we go through our replica WWE and NXT Championship belts and have an opportunity to be able to get the side plates of our respective new champions a little earlier than everyone else. Sometimes doesn't even make it to the shop. But we get a chance to go ahead and show them off and then put them on our new belts. So the first one we want to talk about, but I almost jumped the gun. First thing we need to talk about is our sponsor for this episode, and it is the wonderful and glorious, spin that around, Taco Bell. Taco Bell, give us free stuff. We definitely enjoy eating at the Bell. They've got some really good deals going on right now. Chicken chicken roasted or toasted tacos or burritos or whatever it is back. We tried that the other day. Our son ended up celebrating his 18th birthday there, so now we've got one more adult in the house now. But continue to they crack the joke, 7 ingredients, but can make somehow like 60 or 65 things out of it. But they've definitely always treated us well. We've got a wonderful group out there. Shout out to Joisha if you're watching, because you're one of our favorites out there. Always gets our order right and is appreciated. But Taco Bell, thank you so much for providing the small amount of funds to allow us to be able to keep doing what we do. So thank you so much. Let's jump into our first plate exchange here. We did have three of them. Unfortunately, this past episode of NXT from 2 nights ago has reduced it down to two. At the most recent WWE and NXT Premium Live event, we actually had a surprise title change with Chase U beating the Don and Stax Lorenzo to win the NXT Tag Team Championships. This definitely came as a shocker to everyone as we watched through Halloween Havoc, and certainly was not expecting that particular title change, but they go ahead and pull the trigger on it and have Duke Hudson and Andre Chase win the championship with perhaps a little bit of assist from JC Jane and Thea Hale at the same time. Unfortunately, that plan has kind of backfired on me a little, and this is what stalling for a couple of days happens to, when we can't get these episodes out in time. But first, we will show off the plates here real quick as we were able to get a hold of the Chase U plates here. Both of them ended up being exactly the same, so didn't matter which one. Unfortunately, anybody who did watch from 2 nights ago saw that in their rematch, Stax Lorenzo and the Don, Tony D'Angelo, ended up winning the tag team titles back. So ultimately, there is no plate for us to exchange because if you go back and watch our last episode, we actually had a plate exchange showing the plate exchange for the Don and for Stax Lorenzo. So there is no plates to exchange, but we did get the Chase U ones. So we wanted to show those off. Leads you to wonder if maybe this group is potentially on its way out, whether that means they're going to disband it or whether potentially they might be going main roster here soon, so they needed to get something on them, or whether it was just, hey, we're going to throw a surprise in there and shock everybody with Chase U winning the championship. But they did win it for a little while, held it for 2 weeks, but now they are no longer the champions, and the Don and Lorenzo are back as champions again, so no plates to officially exchange. We move to what is our first official exchange on here. It's the second one we're going to talk about. And that also happened on night one of Halloween Havoc a couple of weeks ago. And that was for the NXT Women's Championship in what a lot of people are considering to be perhaps a smart move, but also a bit of a shocker. as ultimately the NXT Women's Championship changing hands at Halloween Havoc. It was originally held by the man, Becky Lynch, completing her Grand Slam run as the NXT Women's title was the only one that she had never held up to that stage. But ultimately, she is defeated in the main event of NXT Halloween Havoc's Night 1 by fellow Irish competitor Lyra Valkyria. A lot of people believing that Lyra is the future. She definitely was big in NXT UK and has certainly been in a lot of great storylines on NXT up to this point. However, I think a lot of people were not expecting that she was going to be able to best Becky Lynch, but able to do so in arguably one of the better main events we've seen on NXT in quite a while. But we do have Lyra's plate. She had to wait 2 weeks to get them herself, but now we've got our own versions of them here as well. Getting a chance to show those off here, got to get some better lighting in here at some stage, but apologize for that. But we do have them. And now we'll go ahead and get these on our championship title here. So we'll get rid of the Becky Lynch plates. It does not appear that Becky is moving towards a rematch. Becky appears to publicly has come out and said that she thinks her time in NXT is done at this stage and has no interest in potentially returning back to face Lyra. She thinks it was a one match. I think she did a fantastic job of, putting yet another person over. And now it looks like her storyline is heading to a rivalry. It's looking like with Xia Li. Because there have been two random attacks by Xia Li on Becky Lynch, one of them costing her an opportunity to be able to compete in the Battle Royal for a shot at Rhea Ripley's title. Ultimately, Zoe Stark winning that one, so she will be competing at Survivor Series here in a couple of weekends. But it looks like Becky Lynch is heading towards a story with Xia Li and perhaps starting a run where she is going to be promoted to put some people over. You saw her fantastic storyline with Trish and with Zoe Stark that kind of took over the summer in terms of the women's division, along with what Rhea Ripley was doing. And now sending her down to NXT, having her put over Tiffany Stratton despite taking the championship, and now putting over people like Lyra Valkyria. You're bringing up Tegan, building up Tegan Knox. Shotzi got a shot. So really just getting a chance to revamp the women's division, both old and new, in terms of what's out there. And it's the man who seems like she's in the middle of all of it, so not a surprise, and a good job there by the feisty redheaded veteran. In the meantime, as I switch out the other plate here, we look at our new champion, Lyra, who has been in a number of great storylines and a number of great matches. She had a great rivalry with Cora Jade, of course, battled against Tiffany Stratton in the finals, a match that ultimately Stratton ended up winning all the way back in February to win the championship in the first place. That was vacated by Indy Hartwell after her injury and her subsequent call-up. But now you look at Lyra completing the run, completing the story, if you will, and getting a chance to now show off what she can do as champion. And, she's going to have no shortage of challengers. She's had issues with Kiana James. She's had issues with Cora Jade. Roxanne Perez definitely feeling like she's not done being in the story. And, of course, the ever-looming potential shadow of someone like Jade Cargill still waiting in the wings, as well as we still do not have full clarity as to where Cargill is ultimately going to end up. But she was at that match with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria at Halloween Havoc in the Performance Center. So it's definitely showing that Jade is potentially interested in NXT as well. It would be a good starting spot for someone who's maybe not necessarily new to wrestling, but new to WWE, and a good place to start things off. So it'll be interesting to see, but Lyra's going to have no shortage of challenges in front of her, so she's definitely the hunted now, but we will see if that ends up panning out. But with that, our plate exchange for her is completed, and we now have the Lyra Valkyria plates now on our NXT Women's Championship belt. Showing those off here. getting a good shot of both. Again, our lighting's terrible. Sorry. Going to work on that. But ultimately, we will have photos of these on our social media coming up later today or first thing tomorrow, depending upon our time schedule. Meanwhile, we do say goodbye to the NXT version of the Becky Lynch plates. So now she has a set for both NXT and for main roster and has completed the Grand Slam. So we say goodbye to those and potentially might see them again in the future, but, we will see. And that moves us to our last of our 3 plate exchanges for this particular episode. This one happened at Crown Jewel just a couple of days ago, and this was, in most people's opinion, probably the most likely championship, but also I think a lot of people would say maybe the one that I think a lot of people thought wouldn't happen. Now, a little clarity has come on since this title change happened, but ultimately there was only one championship that changed hands at Crown Jewel, and that was the United States Championship, going from the incumbent champion Rey Mysterio to celebrity / WWE superstar Logan Paul. And Logan Paul doing a fantastic job. I think that I was one of his toughest critics when he first got here, because I have always been a proponent of, if you're going to be from the celebrity world, you're going to have to prove your love and your respect for this business, while at the same time also showing that you are prepared to put in the work and prepared to put in the time. And if you're not prepared to do so, then you have no business being in a ring. That being said, you look at people like Logan Paul, and I would also mention maybe Bad Bunny definitely being part of this conversation as well. They've put in the time, they've put in the work, they've put in the effort. Logan Paul has been thrown to the wolves. I mean, he has had matches with Damian Priest. He's had matches with The Miz. He's had matches with the Mysterios. He's had matches with Roman Reigns, with Seth Rollins, Ricochet. And now in there, once again, now one-on-one this time with Rey Mysterio, actually beating him for the second time. And with that, he claims his first championship gold within WWE. So, pulling out this gigantically heavy United States Championship belt, which before this had the Rey Mysterio 619 plates on them. So those were definitely one of our funner ones to get a hold of. But that championship run is now over for Rey Mysterio, and with that, we have new United States champion, as we said, in the form of Logan Paul, showing off his plates for the very first time with a very, let's just say, candid photo shoot that I guess if you were of the female persuasion, either you absolutely loved it or hate it, depending upon your point of view. My only thought is, please don't shower with the belt. The thing's leather. But we do have the Logan Paul plates. This is the one that's kind of off center here. Sorry about that. But decent plates. It's just his standard Logan Paul WWE logo. And we now have an opportunity to put them on our United States Championship, so we'll go ahead and start the exchange. But continuing what I was going with a minute ago, and I definitely want anybody who's in the comments to throw in their 2 cents if they feel like they should or feel like they want to. But essentially, we look at someone like a Logan Paul or like a Bad Bunny or somebody like that who has had to live with that celebrity status. And it's going to be interesting to see how they choose to play things off in this circumstance, because, of course, Logan Paul being a part-time WWE superstar, especially winning a championship on the same brand when your world champion is also a part-timer right now, with Roman Reigns holding the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. You now have to look at the possibility of who is going to be kind of running the stories title-wise on SmackDown, because essentially both your champions are out. And as we did mention earlier, a little bit of clarity has come into play in terms of this storyline with Rey Mysterio, because he is selling the inevitable or the subsequent attack from Santos Escobar turning heel and taking him out of the LWO. ultimately resulting in him having to have knee surgery. So it does appear that Rey Mysterio ultimately was potentially injured. I don't know if that injury happened during the match with Logan Paul or whether he was already injured, but it definitely would make sense as to why the title needed to change hands. It is interesting, though, that they chose to go with Paul instead of potentially starting, a running storyline with Santos Escobar, especially if he is causing the LWO to turn. Let's stare at Ray's plates. I don't know anybody who's ever actually seen the plates for the United States Championship, but the screws on these are actually quite a bit larger. I know that's tough to see, but usually the actual screws are only about half the size. So the United States ones are tougher to put in and take out, but also sit in there much more snug than any of the other championship belts that we have, including some of the new ones. We have, of course, the 4 new championships that have been introduced to main roster. Each one has had an opportunity to make an appearance on our show recently on Top Rope Spoilers when we did Crown Jewel. So, go back and watch one of those or follow any of our social medias. We're on all of them. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Hive, TikTok, of course, because hey, you're here watching me now. And of course, our big one is YouTube. YouTube actually has our contract. We're getting ready to get hyped up here for Survivor Series coming up here in 2 weekends. Of course, Thanksgiving break and a little bit of time off from work and a little bit of enjoyment. A little bit of R&R getting ready for most of our household, and especially our kids. And of course, some fun events coming up here. I don't know how our contract's going to necessarily look in terms of us continuing to travel with all the fun PLE news that's been announced over the last couple of weeks. With the big news coming out earlier today that they're getting ready to have a premium live event, Backlash, in Paris, France, starting in May. Oh, thank you, Kiki. Appreciate the love and the appreciate the love and affection from the crowd. Whatnot. It's nothing fancy, but hey, it's fun. But yeah, ultimately we've got Elimination Chamber coming up in Perth, Australia, in a few months. That's in February, and then you've got Backlash coming up in Paris, France. Germany, Berlin is getting an event in August, and right now there is still some discussion. I know there was some talks about potentially Milan or a location like that getting a live event for Italy. So there's definitely an international flair that appears to be coming to WWE. Of course, we know we're going to get 2 events, still 2 more events in Saudi Arabia every year until 2030. So that's still going to go on for a little while longer. But essentially, you continue to, look at how WWE is progressing, and it looks like they are definitely pushing hard and pushing forward with the idea of an international model in terms of at least the front half of this year, this upcoming year, because it looks like only the Royal Rumble and, of course, WrestleMania. Hey, Kia. It looks like only the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania are going to actually appear in the United States, because we have, let's see, Tampa is getting the Royal Rumble, and then ultimately you're getting, of course, WrestleMania in Philadelphia. The pre-sale for the shows that are surrounding WrestleMania all went live today. Unfortunately, our bank account is arguing with our ability to be able to choose which show we would like to be able to attend. Apologies for this one. This plate is being a little less cooperative than usual. It would be. It would ironically be Logan Paul's belt or plates that would be the ones causing all the problems. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would agree with, but I will agree with your comment on there that says they definitely do look good. It's and I was kind of going off on it here for a little bit in terms of essentially noting, like, now that you have given a celebrity part-timer, a championship reign. It's going to be up to Logan now at this stage to set the tone in terms of how this is going to work for anybody else that they may consider to put a championship on in the future. He's not the first one, of course, to get a title shot. You have infamous title shots, of course. Depending upon how you view Brock Lesnar, of course, will certainly change your viewpoint. I just realized the entire time that's been the women's championship still. I forgot to switch that. Shame. But you've got that. There's the god awful defense in Saudi Arabia with Cain Velasquez being a part of it. Of course, this is Logan Paul's second championship match since getting here. He had a shot at Roman Reigns' undisputed Universal title and came up just a little short, but definitely showed up and showed out. So, I think he's earned the respect of the people that are in the ring with him. I think that one spot where he caught Rey Mysterio on a backflip where it looked like I still to this moment don't know who was out of position, whether Paul was supposed to be somewhere else or whether Rey missed his spot. That may have been very well where Rey got hurt because he just had to have knee surgery. So maybe that's where he got hurt. Maybe his knee buckled out from under him on that flip because it did look like that match kind of ended rather abruptly. So you maybe see how things pan out. But ultimately, him being willing to adjust on the fly to get Rey caught and to protect his opponent, I think that went a long way to earning him some definite brownie points for respect. But the plate exchange is complete. The Logan Paul plate's now on our United States Championship belt. We're going to rotate that across here, let everybody get a good look at those. And again, photos of these will be available on our social media here in just a little bit, so be on the lookout for those. But again, now we've got two part-time champions essentially on SmackDown now at this stage, so it's going to be curious to see how are they going to portray things in terms of the championship picture on Friday Night SmackDown if you're not going to have Roman Reigns there. Right now, Reigns not expected to be a part of Survivor Series. In fact, most people have projected and it's been theorized that he's done for the year. So, we may not see the Tribal Chief again until Royal Rumble in January. But, he continues to build up that championship run. But whether you like the part-time run or not, it looks like that's where they're heading, at least until the start of the year. They're going to make sure he stays healthy and keeps the championship streak going. But with that does bring it into our plate exchange. Once again, thank you to Taco Bell for sponsoring our episode. We always appreciate, the love and support. Liv Moss. And for all of you that joined us here for our show, we don't really have a big audience, on most days. And, I know it kind of jumped in kind of abruptly. This was supposed to happen this past weekend, but ultimately time didn't work out the way we had hoped for. But we definitely want to see you guys, as we go forward. Always plates to exchange whenever a new one comes along. So we definitely want you guys to keep coming back to us. We've got Top Rope Spoilers coming up next week for Survivor Series. We're going to jump into that right before we get to Thanksgiving. And, of course, we'll do some type of Thanksgiving shout-out and everything else. So for those of you who do celebrate that special day of the year, go enjoy it with your families and your friends. Remember what it's about, and definitely make sure you're keeping yourself safe out there. And we will catch you on the next go-round. This is Steve with On the Ring Apron. Have a good one, guys.